I'd rather sleep in bed.
So we are calling this meeting to order. It's 2 o'clock. Thank you for everyone for being here. We are still waiting to see if a couple of people log on to Zoom, but at this time they aren't there. So why don't we go through and you guys do a roll call. My name's Tammy DeWitt. I'm the community planner with the City of Prescott, and we'll start over here with Rod.
Rod Moyer.
And please remember to use your microphones. We are on Zoom and we are being recorded. Thank you.
Rod Moyer here.
Jim Huffman here.
Gary Warrup here.
Terry Sapio here.
Andre Carmen.
Ted Gambogi.
Don Michaelman.
Mary Frederickson.
Jim McCarver.
Thank you. And we also have Councilmember Montoya and Councilmember Moore here. We also have our new Community Development Director, Kirby, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes, if I can take just a couple minutes and introduce myself. My name's Kirby Sneidman. I'm the new Community Development Director. Community Development is over Planning and Building Division. And we also have the pleasure of being able to internally with staff lead this general plan effort, which we're going to talk a little about today. And I'm really excited to be involved in this. Let me give you a little bit of history. I have worked for several years in doing work like this as a consultant before I worked on the public side in different positions. I've worked on over 200 projects in 100 different cities and counties in 15 different states. Of that, about 24 of those were general plan updates or general plan overhauls. All of those were really exciting and a lot of fun. It's always a great process to be able to go out in the community and capture that vision and then take that vision and work it down into a plan. So the time that you're going to spend over the next many months, years really, of this process is going to be a lot. And we're going to rely very heavily on you, and we're going to get to know each other very well. And we're very excited to do the work for you on this. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, and we can get into some of those details.
And we also have our mayor here to also representing. Thank you, Mayor Good. So first on our agenda is the approval of the August 24, 2022 minutes.
We need a motion for that?
Yes, we will. Are there any corrections or comments?
Minor one. I'll leave it up to our city clerk whether it needs to be corrected or not. But on the let's see, I'm sorry, where is it? I thought I had it marked. Anyway,
What page you on?
it was in the introductions, and what I said was that I had served on the Open Space Initiative Committee, which is quite a different thing than an Open Space Commission.
Okay.
I wish we had a commission, because that could not have been dissolved so easily.
Okay. Thank you. And Jennifer will make note of that.
So we can correct that and bring them back at the next meeting?
Or do you want them to approve them with that proposed change?
Yes, we can approve it with the correction noted.
Okay, anyone want to make a motion?
I so move, including the correction about Mr. Moyer.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, so. So to go through our presentation today, so the overall goal that we're here for is to create the long-range community vision and a plan out of that. So we're going to be going out into the community starting next year and getting the community's comments to create the vision that they see for their community. And you are going to help us with that. That's what our main goal for the committee here is that you're going to be helping us go out to the community and get everybody's vision and comments. So first off, we're going through the committee responsibilities. So basically, the responsibilities of the committee are going to be gathering public vision for the city. That's the main goal. If we need to create the vision, we need to get their input. And we're going to spend all next year getting that input through different venues. through surveys, through public meetings, through different outreach, and other ways that we can think of through the next year. So we're going to try to be really creative, and we want to get a lot of input. We know through social media lately, over the last few years, we have been getting through different planning processes a lot of feedback, like a lot better response than we've ever seen with a lot of plans. So we're hoping to build on that and get even better responses through this process. So part of that is going to be the public outreach and public participation strategies. Over the next year, we'll keep building on our citizen participation in different ways to get out in the community, participate in events, like on the courthouse or other events, to get the word out about people wanting their input. We want everybody's input. All different venues we also want, one thing we were thinking about doing is going to the high schools, why are kids not staying in town? They're all leaving. So we want to know what can we do to keep them here or attract more of the younger generation here, things like that.
Tammy, can you talk to what they did in the 2015 plan associated with getting input?
I would have to defer that to George, who
Okay.
I don't know if he's ready. But that's something we can bring back later. It's like what they did last time, or what kind of venues. I looked for surveys and stuff. I couldn't find anything on our website, on our network. So we may be able to find some things that they did before.
Can I answer that, Tim?
Sure.
Since I was the only one here in the room at that time. We did not do public surveys. We only had one commission or a subcommittee, which George Sheets, the late George Sheets, and I started for open space trails. And we generally did not go out and approach the public.
Which is very unusual for a general plan update. Usually you go out and you do public meetings, you get public. So we're going to be doing a lot of that this next year.
Excuse me. I saw a reference to the 2011 Public Participation Plan. Is that something that is online?
No, but the citizen participation plan that was adopted by City Council, that was included in the packet and in your folders, we used that 2011 plan to build on that. So a lot of that's the same, but we built on that for using new technology. And then volunteer coordination. We may need help going out and getting input. So we're going to be asking for volunteers for certain events, or creating a list where we can ask people to help us when we need more people. So in the 2015 plan, the Prescott vision was quality of life. That was the main focus, was quality of life. And then these are the things they came out with, was friendly neighborhoods, energized downtown, and employment opportunities. I think we can build on this, and there may be other main points rather than just quality of life. There may be other things that we can build on and add to it. So you can have different visions, and then we can build on that, what's important to that. So that's going to be, once we get the public input, we're going to refine and prioritize that public vision to start brainstorming and getting it into a plan format. Then after City Council approval, this has to go through, we have to have lots of statutory requirements. We have a 60-day review period. It goes through Planning and Zoning Commission. Then it gets approved by City Council. After it gets approved by City Council, it needs to go to the voters. Staff cannot advocate the plan. We cannot reach out to people. We can't disseminate information. We're going to need you as a committee to do that, to be our sounding board for it, to gather the support for the information that goes on the ballot, and then disseminate all the information about the general plan and the election to the community. We're going to need your help with that because we can't do it. So, staff responsibilities, basically what we're going to be responsible for. So, who we are, we have a project team. I'm the project manager. I'm going to be overseeing the whole process. We have the project team core, which is our city planning staff division. We meet weekly to go over what we're doing, what other information we're needing. We just keep meeting weekly to keep everything going. We also will have a project team. We're going to have representatives from all the different city departments to meet monthly so we can keep getting input and information from the other departments, or any processes that they're doing. If they're doing any plans, make sure we're included and that we're participating and we're getting all that information for our plan. Then we have project partners like SIMPA, the Central Yavapai Metropolitan Planning Organization, ADOT, the Forest Service, Game and Fish, Yavapai County, and the surrounding jurisdictions. We're going to make sure that we can reach out to them and get information as we need from those different jurisdictions. Staff project team tasks. So what we're going to be doing as staff, we're going to be creating the survey, creating stickers and comment cards and everything, anything we need for meetings, handouts. Hopefully we get a budget at some time for all this. So we're going to be creating all that and getting all that information together, banners, whatever else we need to get people to know about this is going on. We're going to reach out to the media. We have articles in the paper. We do radio ads. We could do radio, get on the radio with different people to talk about the process and how people can get involved. Schedule meeting and area meetings. So we'll be doing that all next year. We'll be figuring out events and meetings. If we need to go to neighborhood meetings, and we'll be asking you to help us go to those meetings to get public input. Then we're going to assemble all that public commentary and suggestions and put them in a way to format it so we can make sure that we know what their vision is and kind of create it and then write the plan around that. And then we're also going to maintain the website. The city's going to be, we're in the process of updating our website right now, and we're hoping, our goal is to create a page just for this. So any information, all these meetings will all be posted on that website. So anything that people want to see, they can see the meetings, they can see what information, surveys, anything else that we have will all be on that website. So people have one place to go to get anything and to participate. Our job is also to make sure we're following state statutes. We need to make sure that there was a question at the last meeting about the legal parameters of a plan, whether it's what is binding in the plan. Well, a plan can be amended. People can ask for amendments to the general plan. It's a guide. The land use map is the main thing we look at when projects come through for annexations or rezonings. We make sure it's in compliance with that general plan. And then if they're not, they'll have to amend the general plan. We also keep looking at the goals and implementation to see what we can do or what we need to work on to implement those goals and get everything, finish all those. We look at, make sure we got the required elements that are supposed to be in the plan, and there's also suggested elements that we make sure we can try to address those. We do their 60-day review public comment period, and we make sure we're meeting any other statutory deadlines that we have as we're moving this forward through the process. We're also going to make sure we're utilizing best practices. We're looking at the format and the content of plan. We've been looking at other general plans that have been done throughout the country, see what kind of format, what they're looking at, what kind of information's going into it, if we're missing something or something that we may want to add to our plan. We're kind of looking at that. The accessibility of the plan, try to go to our website and find the plan. We want to make sure that it's very clear and it's going to be accessible and easy to read. The website that is user-friendly, to make sure that it's easily found on our website. The different ways of reaching out to the public, we're going to try to use as much technology as possible so you get word out and you get more comments back, because people could sit at home, be at their computer, think about it, glass of wine, beer, if they have to. But then people can actually think about it and get all their thoughts on paper. Outreach, all ages, demographics, and geography. We want to reach out to the whole community. We don't want to focus on just core areas and make sure they're not driving the plan. We want to make sure we're getting out to everybody. So hence why different ways of getting the surveys out and such through electronic is a good way to get that out. And like I said, maybe go into the high schools, go to government classes, get kids excited and want to be involved. That's what we're going to try to do this next year. And then goal setting and accountability. Just make sure that we're meeting all our goals and we're keeping ourselves paced, we're getting everything done when we need to. So review of our timeline. We don't have that much time. The whole goal is to be on the August 2025 ballot. So what has been done? Well, we created the citizen participation plan, which was in your binders and also attached to the agenda, and a committee was appointed. So over the next few months, We're going to be identifying our stakeholders, getting people who's going to be on from the different jurisdictions to be on our group. Create the web page, a Facebook page, and create an email address that all the comments could come into. So my email doesn't get too bogged down. So we're going to create maps for the web page and for meetings. We're going to try to get as much information on paper and get maps and everything else that we need for our meetings, get that all ready to go. Update data in the plan and make available for the website all our population data we're getting from the census as it's still getting updated, and any other information that we can get that's from the plan, it needs to be updated, and we'll try to get that on the webpage so people can kind of see where we're at this point in time in regards to populations, how it's been increasing and stuff. We're going to update the data in the plan and make available for the website, so that's that. And then population data, and then population by age and gender is the information we're going to be looking at. So 2023, the year of the public outreach, that's going to be our goal next year. Lots of outreach, lots of meetings, lots of events, schools, surveys, media, paper, social media, radio. We want to get the word out. We want to get people involved. We want their input. Very important. You have to have, in order to create a vision for the community, we need their input. It's not our plan, it's City of Prescott's plan. So we want to make sure that everybody is involved and we get as much input and different thoughts and ideas that we can. Everyone has an opinion. We want to hear it. So.
Tammy, to that point,
Sure.
I think that's a two-directional effort. For example, in our AVO, we have people coming to the airport. What I think you're suggesting is that we go to the Kiwanis, the Rotary, all the social organizations, because they're always looking for speakers. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, whether it's with them or even with the radio, I think it should be more than just point in time. It's almost like you could go twice a year, because people have some input, then they think about it, then they want to have some more input. So we ought to accommodate that in our scheduling.
Yes, and at any time of the year, they can go onto the website. We'll have a place where people could put comments in. They can email them at any time, and we're going to keep building on all the information we get. So that, even past 2023, we'll still be taking public comment as we're finishing up the plan. But basically next year, it's really when we want to get everybody's comment and what their vision is of the community. That's the whole goal, the vision of the community.
Tammy?
Yes.
Would it be an idea to utilize Oli out at the college to get input or presentations or something like that?
Sure.
Talking to Pat out there?
Yeah, we can go to all the colleges. We can, HOAs, anybody who wants us to come to a meeting, we'll be happy to go and get the word out.
Tammy?
Yes.
So all the civic organizations, of course, Lions and Kiwanis and that, is there any restriction as far as regulations go, whether or not we can reach out to the partisan groups, Republican,
Sure.
Democrat?
Yeah.
There's no limitation there. So if the Republican Women's group wanted a speaker to come,
Sure.
that's not a problem.
Oh, we'd be happy to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The more involvement, the more word we get out, the better, the more input we're going to get. We want the input. So however way we can get the word out, even if it's just giving them a flyer or something, or just where they can go to the website, where they can get the surveys, different things like that, we'll be handing a lot of information out. But we'd be happy to attend any of those meetings to answer any questions. In 2024, we'll be refining the vision and the plan. We're going to complete the plan. Then we're going to have our 60-day public comment period. The goal is to have probably 2 Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. Hopefully we can get it through 2. And then a final approval by City Council. We're hoping to get that probably by the end of 2024, so that we make sure that we meet all the deadlines for getting everything to the recorder's office and to the elections office to get everything on the ballot on time. Then in 2025 is the voter campaign. Like I said, staff can't advocate for the plan, but we're going to need your help to get the word out and to get public comment, like support that goes in the ballot for the ballot stuff. We're going to need your help getting comments for that. And you can go out and advocate for it and get support for it and get the word out. But we can do press releases, open houses to provide information. We just can't advocate for it. And then community outreach and gain support. And then August will be on the election ballot. So that's our goal for 2025. And that's it for today. So, any questions or comments?
So looking
James?
at the contents and the framework from the 2015, are we going to sort of use that template, going through all the different elements and defining them and the initial stuff, sort of use that as a guideline to?
So staff will be doing that, updating that information. We're going to be looking at where we can possibly cut some stuff up, but staff's going to be doing all that. Once we get through 2023 and get all the public comments, we're going to start working on the goals and strategies. And then your goal as the committee is to make sure that we captured the vision of the community and we addressed all the concerns and comments that have come in. So staff's going to be writing the plan.
So will we be responsible for reviewing that and going line by line and looking at the content?
Yes, in 2024, we'll be going through that to make sure that we've captured everybody's, the vision of the community. Like I say, that's our main goal. What's the vision of the community? And then we captured all the information to create that vision or to what we need to do to create it or what are other issues or concerns people have and goals to address that to make sure we want to make sure we've captured all that.
Tammy?
Yes.
You mentioned, as far as the outreach goes, social media, and I think there was a reference to Facebook. And I'm assuming staff in some division manages Prescott's Facebook page?
Yes, we have contacts for our economic development. They do the Facebook page, so we can blast staff out information out.
And is Prescott on any of the other platform, Twitter, or I don't know if any of the others, I'm not that connected to social media, but Twitter I know.
Yeah.
Do
We
have
can.
a Twitter page or account?
I don't know if we do, but okay. And we have.
Hi, Christina Binkley. I work with John Heine in communications and help manage the social media. So currently the city Facebook is using Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn as their primary resources.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yes. My biggest concern, still lapping over from the 2015 general plan, excuse me, is we were never clarified or informed what each department was planning, what their wishes were, how they hope to get there, and what means to do that. I'm hoping that, I'll give you a perfect example. We are now one of the top in the United States for outdoor recreation and trails and that. Mm-hmm. I have asked council before to bring in Chris Hosking to explain where we are and where we need to go and how to get there. We're talking about massive land purchase, which thanks to this wonderful council we've done. We don't know the long-range plan for that. That's the future of Prescott. That's what citizens want to know. So I would like to know, are we going to bring in representatives from departments and talk about what's the future of water, what's the future of open space? I mean, Rod Moyer is sitting here, very instrumental in the future saving the Dells. Mm-hmm. Where are we going? How are we going to pay for that? Those are the things that I want to know, and that people come to me because I represent the outdoors and not-for-profit, as does Rod. Where are we going? Lots of people are coming to me and say, Gary, we're too frustrated from the history here and from former council, and they're moving. And that needs to be addressed because I don't want to lose more good people here.
And we will have them working on those elements, updating those elements, and any information that they provide to us will be included in that from the Parks and Rec, for the open space, and for recreation. and we can build on what's there. We do know about all the new open space acquisitions, and those will be goals that are going. Those are goals that are coming out of the plan. What do we need to do to plan for those areas? So
Well, when you say us, is that us or is that planning?
that's the city.
Well, we represent the future of this city.
If I can add a little bit of context to that, Tammy, you're exactly right. We have the project team, which is staffed to help provide information. There's a lot of information to get out, which is why it's going to take a long time to get that information out, and we want to get it out to the public. So this group is going to be very instrumental in helping us plan and execute that 2023 year of public outreach. And at those meetings, we're going to have all the departments that are relevant, which is probably all the departments, providing information to you and to the public on any of these given topics. Now, one approach could be we have one public meeting that's the same for all the many dozens of meetings we're going to have in 2023. That wouldn't be very effective. What we're instead going to have is many of these meetings which are specialized, where we're talking maybe one meeting just on parks or multiple meetings just on parks, where we have the Parks Department explain, here's the current situation, so it's not going to be staff-driven, like, here's what we want. We would like to see this. It's, hey, here's where we're at, here's where we've come from, here's where we're going. But we're doing that in a public format where the public can learn and really drill in on these details. And we're going to have meetings like that for all the different areas of city government so that you can learn about the city, learn about where we're at, learn the history, and learn about the potential of where we're going. All that information will be brought to the public in 2023. So I don't want to stress you all out, but this public outreach, it's not a little part of this. It is the most instrumental, the biggest part of this plan. We have to go out and capture that vision. Now, we've got enough people in this room, we've got enough smart people where we could write a pretty nice plan, but is this the plan of the city? We won't know that unless we go out there and talk to people and get surveys and have conversations and basically get the feedback from as many people as we can in the city. Then we can determine that, yes, this is the vision. It's not only a good way to do the plan, it's critical here in Arizona because by state statute, a plan has to be adopted by the voters. And so when we go to the voters and say, hey, what do you think of this plan? It's not something they just heard of or seen for the first time. This is something they're not going to be able to get away from in 2023. There's going to be so much involvement. So we're going to need your help planning these events. We're going to need your help executing these events. We're hoping that you volunteer to participate. You already had some great ideas. We thought of those same ones too, the social groups. There's probably so much more that we're going to want to brainstorm with you as we get closer to 2023 to talk about how can we do this public outreach most effectively and reach the most people. We've got a goal right now. How many people do we want to reach, Tammy?
Over 10%.
10%. A 10% response rate, believe it or not, would put us in the top 1% of all general plans in the country. Now, you might think, 10% is not a lot. It's just 5,000. That's a lot. That's tough. But if we were to get close to that, again, we'd be in the top 1% in the country. And as far as a really robust and effective general plan, that is the number one measurement of a good plan. It's not, did the plan fit with your vision? It's, did we capture the vision of the city? So, yes, that was a long way to answer your question, but I sensed a little bit of concern. What we really want to do is use the city to provide information, and we want to capture the vision from all the residents in the city.
Yes.
I'm going to come up here since it's being Zoom so the audience can hear me if there's anybody on Zoom. But you had a list of partners like SIMPO and Forest Service. I was wondering, is that a list that we can expand or add to?
Yes.
Because I was thinking we should probably include Arizona State Parks, since we're maybe looking at having them partnering with us or being a part of the acquisition or development of a Granite Regional Park. Mm-hmm. So it'd be nice to have Arizona State Parks as one of those people that we'd want to include. I had another question. As a city council, we sit down in January and we do a strategic plan where it's kind of a closed door kind of meeting, but I think it would be important to maybe have some interface between this body and the strategic plan with the council so that we're kind of maybe on a similar page. They're kind of hearing what we're thinking. That would be feedback for them of what the council's thinking is the direction that we want to go in the city in the next 3 to 5 years. So I just wanted to throw that out as a possibility if we could somehow interface the strategic plan portion with this body.
To comment on that, that is a fantastic idea, and the best time for that would be in January of 2024. So 2023 is the year of public outreach. That's when we capture the vision of what the city wants to see for the future. 2024 is writing the plan, and you're also going to play a big part, not writing the plan, but working that vision down into the goals. And, staff's going to take the responsibility of writing the plan because there's a lot in there. Of course, you're going to get to see the final thing and give us your comments. But we don't want you to be overstressed and feel like you have to write this thing. That's going to be a staff responsibility. But what we're going to do is take that vision. We got to prioritize that vision. We got to work that down into goals. One of the challenges I've seen many times with general plans is if you have, it might sound crazy, but if you have 200, 300, 400 goals in a plan, how effective do you think you're going to be at achieving those goals? I've seen plans with that many goals because they included everything that the city wanted, all the residents wanted, all the people on the committee wanted, all the council members wanted, and you got a plan with 350 goals. One of the most effective things about this plan for whoever asked the question about, well, is a plan really enforceable? Can the city just do whatever they want afterwards? Essentially, they can, because a plan is just a guide. But if that guide is very concise and it shows that it has strong public support and that vision has been worked down into a few goals that everyone is on board with, then it's very difficult or impossible to depart away from that, because everyone knows this is what the city wants. This is what the community wants to see. When you try to include just everybody's what everybody wants in the plan, then it's less effective. So a big part of your job in 2024 and hearing from the council is going to be to take that vision that we've captured from the city and then working that down into a priority, working it down into goals that we really know we can achieve, and then figuring out a timeline and figuring out a way that we can have some accountability for those goals. So we've got a lot of best practices in mind for that, but we are going to include you on how to do that. So it's a lot of work, but yeah, 2024 would be a great time to have that strategic meeting with council.
I'm on Zoom, and I've had my hand up. Is anybody monitoring Zoom?
Yes, Deb, I was getting ready to call on you. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I wanted to go back to the slide on the legal information. I noticed when I read through the plan that there are other documents that the last plan references should be created. And I'm wondering what's the best way to find out if those ever were created. For example, the transportation plan. The last document said the city would create a transportation plan, I think by 2016. Do you know if one was done?
We have heard that they're working on updating the transportation plan, and we will be heavily involved to make sure that's included in this plan too. But in regards to if another one was done, that's something as staff that we will be getting all that information together over the next few months.
So is there a plan that we could look at now?
SIMPO just redid their transportation plan, the 2020, for the regional transportation. And so what are you hoping to get out of seeing the plan?
Well, there was a requirement in the last plan that the city do one, not SIMPO. I know SIMPO's just updated their plan. So what I'm getting at is there are kind of similar to Councilmember Moore's request. There's a lot of things going on that impact the general plan, like a transportation plan that was called for, and I don't know if it happened or not. So that's why I was asking how binding the general plan is. That was one of the things the last one said the city will do. So I'm wondering if one exists and if I can read it. And then other things like the capital improvement program impacts the general plan because it funds expansions of different things. And so when do we look at the links to that? I guess I'm trying to figure out what documents we need to be aware of, we need to learn about or understand that need to integrate with the general plan. And right now I'm just asking this one that the last committee asked to have done. I can't find it anywhere. And so I was just wondering where it is.
Deb, those are all great questions, and that transportation plan, as was called for or recommended in the plan, I'm not aware of that being done in that format. We do have a regional plan that's done by SIMPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the region, which answers a lot of those questions, and our staff is going to get you that so that you can look at it. We'll send you a copy. And then we've done transportation studies within the city at a lower level looking at certain roads, but what the plan, I think, envisioned was having something a little more comprehensive, and that is something we want to do as part of this plan. What we want to accomplish with this is not that we're doing long-range planning once every 10 years. I think everybody can agree that maybe that's not the most effective way to plan, to just once every 10 years take a look at how we're doing. What we want to do is, with this, kick off regular planning. So you may be involved if council agrees with this strategy, but after we adopt this plan, we're then going to start doing neighborhood plans over a series of years that will then feed into our next general plan, which may be sooner than 10 years. There's a statutory requirement that in Arizona, that we do a plan every 10 years. There is nothing that says we can't do it sooner than that. And some cities, some of the larger cities that are growing faster, do that plan up as many as up to 5 years, every 5 years, to make sure that they're current. So that's one strategy. One strategy is that we do a general plan every 10 years, but we do neighborhood plans more in depth across the city between those times. So what we want to do is continue that. And this is an effort and a way to get organized as staff so that we have that organization in place. We can continue to do planning like that. So we're going to get you that information, Deb, and we're going to provide, that's part of our job, is to provide all of you and all of the public with that information over 2023 so we can explain different elements of this. And I imagine we'll have multiple meetings just on transportation in the city talking
So
about.
could you tell me then how the CIP, which is done every year, even though the projects are multi-year funded, that's a kind of a plan. So what's the relationship between the CIP and the general plan?
Well, to get back to the question you asked, very bluntly, let me tell you, is what's binding in the general plan? Nothing is binding in the general plan. The general plan is a guide. And the more effective the process of creating that plan, then the better the plan will be, the better the plan will be followed. So it's really important that we go through a process here that shows that this is what the city wants, that we capture those vision and goals, we work it down into goals that are achievable, and then we have a way of accountability for those goals, and then we follow that up with continued planning. But as per state statute and our own city code, there is nothing that binds us to follow that code, to follow that plan to the letter. So that's why it's so.
And the general plan map, you would include that in that it's not binding either.
The general plan as well is something that we should be consistent with. But what is required is our zoning map. That is something that's binding,
Okay.
and that's something that we adopt.
Okay. And that's adopted by council, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And Kirby, down the road, not for today, but I think we need to consider an issue of integrity. You stated, and I've heard it before, so you're not the only source, that the general plan is a guide. But we're asking people to input to the general plan, and then we're asking them to vote on the general plan, which is a vote of it's a voice of the voter. And then we've had instances where city council turns around and makes another deal. And the explanation is the general plan is just a guide. Well, what we don't need to debate today, but I think we need to consider is, why are we asking people to vote if it's just a guide? There ought to be a little more consideration, because if we're going to ask all their input and we're going to ask them to vote on it, I think they're looking for some integrity in the process that says, okay, we've done our work, we've made a decision, and now we want to stand by it. So again, not for today, but we need to think about that down the road.
Yeah.
I appreciate you making that comment, and I'm not trying to answer it for you, but I think one of the challenges we face is that every 2 years we have an election. And every 2 years we get 3 new council members and a new mayor, potentially. Mayor's only 2 years, and council's 4 years, but it rotates every 2 years. And the problem is we might get that input from the residents now, but that doesn't mean that that's the priority of the elected officials maybe 7 or 8 years from now. So I think you realize that, but I think it's important to understand that priorities change just because elected officials change. But I totally agree with you.
Thank you, I think.
Well, as someone who has training and background and degrees in urban planning, believe me, I wish plans were binding. I do. But that's just not the process that we have in Arizona. It's not the process we have in any of the states. We have a planning tool that guides us, and for that, it's never meant that that planning tool is what's binding. It's something that guides us. It gives us a vision, gives us a direction, and it can change. And the details often do change and sometimes are difficult to make congruent, but we definitely, there's a requirement for them to be consistent. Our decisions should be consistent, but the state statute gives language that it's not binding. We need to be consistent with what's in the general plan, but it's not binding. Now, that could get you down as like, well, why the heck are we even doing this if it's not binding? The value of going out into the community, and because anyone can say they speak for the community, and often somebody gets elected with, however many votes, and they say they speak for their community, but how often do we go out there and actually have this intensive amount of public outreach where we really gather the voice of the city and then put that into a plan that says this is what residents want? We do that once every 10 years. We could do it sooner, but that's what we do, once every 10 years. And if done effectively, that in itself is a strong tool to tell elected officials and to tell anyone who comes to this community, a developer who might be interested in buying a piece of property and wondering, I wonder if I can get this thing built. Well, they read that plan, and if it's done well and effective and represents the community, they realize, wow, this is what the city wants. Maybe what I want doesn't fit in with that, so maybe I don't try. Or maybe it does exactly, and this is what we want, and this is what we get. So putting that message out there very clearly with a strong general plan, even though it's not binding, is a very powerful tool for the community.
And to build on what Eric Moore said, in our first session, I see the mayor just walked out of the room, so I'm going to try to paraphrase. He asked how many have read the general plan, and he was surprised to see as many hands went up from this side of the desk. And he talked about how a lot of people didn't read the plan before. So I think to address the Eric Moore phenomena, it's not just getting input from customers. It's also feeding input to the city council so they know that there was a plan, and that was the plan that the citizens voted on.
Yeah, and this is just a small thing, but part of that is format. That's a 160-page document, and that's quite a commitment for the average citizen to read through that. There are best practices of creating, an executive summary or even the plan itself, working that down to what is the priority, what is the vision, what are the goals that were captured, so that it doesn't get lost in 160 pages. So we haven't determined how long this plan is going to be, but I can tell you from experience that the more concise, clear a plan can be, the better. I mean, if we could put this plan on one page, and that was the plan, then that's fantastic, because there's going to be no confusion then about what the vision of the city is. Now, realistically, don't worry, it's not going to be it's not going to be one page. But do we want to do 160 pages again? That's something this committee will be considering in 2024. Once we bring the vision of, you help us, hopefully, bring the vision of the city together, and then help us prioritize it and turn it into an actual plan.
Kirby, I've got a question, and it addresses what Ted said and what Councilman Moore said. If the city residents vote on a general plan, they're going to expect the general plan to be followed, whether it's legally binding or not. And then if there is a council 7 or 8 years in the future that has different priorities, and they decide to significantly deviate from what's in the general plan, shouldn't that also go to the voters to say, hey, we're making a significant change to the direction in the general plan, and we want the whole city's input in the form of a vote to do that?
Yes, let me provide a little clarification. When I say it's binding, it's not binding. If you go in one sentence and try to say, well, you didn't do exactly this, that's what I mean by not binding. But there is a requirement to be consistent. And cities have been sued because they didn't follow, they weren't consistent with their general plan, because they deviated so much that it was clear. But again, in a 160-page document, and in my reading of it, I've found inconsistencies within the plan that we have now, because it's so big, it encompasses so much that it doesn't really, it does in some places, but in other places, it doesn't give that clear vision. And so you could assume that, well, what we're doing, anything we've done fits within that plan. So as a tool, the way we word it, the way we put it together, the way we capture the vision of the city and work that down can put us in a stronger position so that consistency cannot be misunderstood of what the city wants, what the residents want. So no, it's not binding, but yes, we have to be, the decisions that are made should be consistent with the plan.
I think to Terry's point, another address to that would be if the city council is going to deviate from the general plan, they have to explain why.
Are you going to talk about it?
Well, I was just going to say, pragmatically, if the state laws say we have to do this every 10 years, and the voters have to vote on it, but it's not binding, if there's language like that in there, which I think Kirby said there is, then we can't force it to be binding unless we amend the city charter to say that it's binding, because state law says it's not. I know that's frustrating. It's frustrated me a long time. But realistically, the only thing you can do if a future council and mayor start deviating from the plan because they're more in favor of what we're not in favor of, the only thing you can do is throw the buggers out. And we've done some of that.
It's Mary Frederickson, and I was just going to add to Kirby's point about if the general plan is more stronger, clearer. It makes it easier for the voters, one, to take it in, but also to bring it to the attention of the council or the mayor if they get wind of deviance from the general plan, to be able to bring it up at a council meeting and say, the general plan said X, it's pretty clear, it's pretty strongly worded. How can you be considering this deviation? And yes, throw the bums out, sorry, is the recourse. I mean, more wildly than that, there's always recall, but every 2 years there is an election of some combination of the councilman or the mayor. And if the plan is concise and strongly worded enough, it will be easier for the voters to keep the council's feet to the fire as far as following the plan. So I'm all on board with the idea of it being more easily understood by the voters, just so that they can do that very thing, hold the council and the mayor accountable to the plan.
Jim Huffman here. Just to follow on that, something I didn't see in the previous plan or plans was perhaps a summary with even, these are our priorities in an order, not saying that it's binding, but these are what we consider to be the most salient features of this.
Yes, to speak to both of those points and just understanding some of the history of how the last general plan was put together. And I've seen it before. Again, I've done a couple dozen of these across the country. When you design a plan, or when you try to write a plan in a way that everybody just gets to put in what they want, what you get is not a clear, concise, prioritized plan. You get everybody's pet project in there, you get everybody's thoughts, and you get a big, long plan that includes a lot of things that you can interpret different ways. And in that way, it's not very effective to determine, well, how are decisions being consistent with this plan? On the other extreme, let's say we had one plan, or our plan ends up being one goal. The citizens have decided we want this, whatever it is, bike lanes across the whole city. That's my vote. Bike lanes across the whole city, that's it. That's our general plan. We want this. Of course, I'm exaggerating because state statute requires us to look at certain things, so we can't just look at bike lanes. But if that was the case, well, then anything but bike lanes across the whole city is inconsistent. Now, I'm exaggerating, but my point being that that is a very effective way at not having 20 goals, but having 3 goals, and those being prioritized. Then it's very clear what we should be accomplishing. So this process of going out to the public, and why we want a whole year of public outreach, is because it's going to be an iterative process where we listen, where we explain, we teach, we educate, all the departments providing information, and then we listen, and then we get feedback, and then we go back to, again, the public to say, this is what we heard. Now let's prioritize these. What of these things are the most important? Because we can't accomplish all these things. But of these, what are important? And then we get the community to feed that back into where we can develop, I'm not saying it will be 3, but maybe for each of these elements, 3 goals or 10 goals, but prioritize in a way that's very clear this is what we want. And work through some of those inconsistencies in those meetings. So if we do see, well, we want this, but we also want this, and they're mutually exclusive, well, then we've got to pick. Then we've got to prioritize so that we don't get into those situations where our plan is inconsistent.
Yeah, another thing to keep in mind is that a vote by the citizens that says they want this and they want this is not the same as a vote by the citizens to impose more taxes on themselves to pay for these things. So you only get what you're willing to pay for, no matter what it says in the general plan.
And that'll be part of the iterative process, because when, hopefully as staff, we explain and we educate, we're going to listen, and then we're going to take those comments, and then we're going to come back and explain. We'll hear some of the consequences of choosing that. So that process, we hope for you to be very involved. I want you to be, maybe the big takeaway is 2 things. A little overwhelmed, because this public outreach in 2023 is going to be huge, it's going to be big, but I also want you to be excited, because it's going to be a lot of fun. This is why I became a planner and headed into community development. This is the reason, because of what a community can be, having these gatherings together, going out and talking with people and figuring out what that vision is and working together to create it. That's the most exciting part of my job. So I'm really excited about 2023, but I also know it's going to be a lot of hard work, which is why we need y'all's help. Each one of you knows many people in the community, knows organizations, has a lot of experience here. We want to poll on that to get as many people involved in these meetings, to help us with volunteers, to set up the meetings, to plan the meetings. We want to be creative with these public meetings and engagement. We want to have food, maybe live music. We want to think outside of the box. We don't just want to talk to the same people. We want to reach demographics that we haven't reached. Tammy talked a lot about younger folks. That's a really hard demographic to reach, but you know what? It's a very important one, because if we don't capture that vision, we don't know what the concerns are. Why maybe they don't feel like this is their community, and they get a certain age and they leave. We want to incorporate them into this, and I can tell you from experience that doing that gives you some of the best ideas in the plan. And for sake of time, I won't share you some stories, but I got some really good ones of just things that younger folks were thinking that none of us had any other idea about. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and we're really going to lean on you to do that public outreach in 2023.
It seems to me like, just looking at the state required elements that we have to review, and then the additional requirements as the population goes over 50,000, you have to look at all that stuff. There's no way to boil it down and have 4 or 5. It's going to be complicated any way we look at it, in my opinion.
Well, we have to have all those elements, but in each element we can have main goals, like goals that are achievable. I mean, you can have goals. You can have any goal in a plan, but whether it's achievable, is going to be the question. Or can we whittle it down to where it is achievable, based on whatever it is?
So the state doesn't require us, okay, you got to look at these 8 elements, and you got to have a goal for everyone, and you can prioritize.
We can do whatever we want. We just have to have those elements in there. So are there any other questions or comments this time? So we do have it scheduled for Wednesday, October 26th at 2 p.m. to have another meeting. We're going to brainstorm on our planning team and see if we need that meeting. Otherwise, we'll be sending out a doodle probably late December for scheduling a meeting in January, where we have our time to get all the data and our website up, hopefully, and going and start getting all the information together, and then we'll be ready to start jumping in come January.
Just in case that you do that, as I've listened to the conversation here, I think of my hero, John Wooden, who said, "A vision without a plan is just a dream." So part of what I think we should consider is not only what should we decide what we want to be when we grow up, but how will we know we have arrived? So planning to say have a bike lane throughout the city, say bike lane throughout the city. Well, what does that mean in terms of actionability? How do I measure that I've accomplished that goal? I think the 2015 plan was a good effort. I think we could learn from what we've done. And for those of us from the corporate world, this is not our first rodeo. So boiling it down to a postcard is what we do. But I also think it ought to have legs so it can be measurable.
And that can be part of the strategy that's created with that goal.
I just have a
Great
question
idea.
about scheduling.
Sure.
So it looks like we're going to be meeting Wednesdays afternoons. That'll be our standard time. If it's going to be the last Wednesday of every month or the fourth Wednesday of every month, because some of the months have 5 Wednesdays, because I have to plan my schedule out. So can we come up with something concrete?
Yeah, what we'll do, first of all, who does this time work really well for? Does it not work well for anybody? Okay, that's good to know. Good to know. Well, what we're going to do...
Just the next month. Generally, this time doesn't work.
Okay, good to know. We're going to discuss, we're probably going to have just one more meeting this year and with this committee. And that will probably be where we brainstorm a little bit more with you about this public outreach in 2023. We want to get a lot more of your ideas. And so it may not be in such a formal setting. It's going to be a public meeting, so it'll be recorded, but maybe we sit around a table. Maybe we, really just kind of work out some ideas and more of a round table discussion of, hey, what are some ideas you've got? What are some best practices we know of doing community outreach? But we're going to need time over the next several months to put all the legwork in so we can start doing public outreach in 2023. So once we do the public outreach, you'll be seeing us, we'll be having multiple events a month, and there will need to be some coordination. So we'll determine that if it's a regular monthly meeting, it may not be, because we're seeing each other so often we can communicate. We can get the schedule out to you of these public events. But a big part of that is just going out and listening to the public and maybe a few check-ins along the way. When we get done with the public outreach effort, that's when we're going to need to meet consistently. And it might end up being more than once a month. But that's a little ways away at this point.
So
it's good to know that this time
you
works.
can't, because Wednesdays are fine if we march them out in advance.
Yeah.
As a standard to start, okay, every Wednesday, fourth Wednesday of every month, we're going to have our meeting. And then I'm sure we'll have to have other stuff. But we can't nail that down today.
Today, no. But we'll work to get to you. I think, Tammy, it would be realistic to say that we'll look at doing one more meeting before the end of the year. And then at that meeting, we'll have a schedule for you that you can then plan for in advance. So for 2023, 2024, we'll get your input on it at the next meeting and then say, does this look good for a consistent meeting schedule? If we get the thumbs up, then we'll put that out there so that we can stay consistent.
I wanted to reiterate, Kirby, what I had said before, and you keep using the term public outreach. For me, for the public to be informed means they need to know what's happening internally in the city. So I want to stress one more time that I would like to see representatives from each element, each department, come and talk about where they are, where they need to go, and how to get there. When I wrote training manuals and did planning for 40 years, the formula for that was do what, with what, and how well. I want to know that Matt Colleen will be standing here telling me, yeah, we're going to fix the lakes. because I served on that. I started that committee, and I now have recently found out we have $1.9 million to fix the lakes. Nobody knew that. Are we ever going to see the lakes fixed? Those are the kind of things that the public wants to know. They bought those 2 lakes for a lot of millions of dollars. Nobody's allowed to swim. All these things that the public comes to us, who represent, the public, I don't have the answers to. I can't go. I have 2 of the highest returns on surveys in the United States, or had. I'm happy to help with the survey because this is my community. But I don't have the questions or the answers without input from each department. So I'm going to emphasize, I want to know what our new wonderful Director for Public Works is thinking about and where we're going. I want to know about PFOAs in the water and how to take care of that. And that's a huge concern right now for the public. Are we safe? Are we going to be safer? I'm in that age category where medically, at almost 79, this is the worst medical system I've ever experienced. I want to know, is it going to get better? Is this a great place to live? I can't answer that now until I hear. I work with the Director for Public, for the Prescott Downtown Partnership. I'm anxious for her to come here and talk about how the businesses downtown are talking about how can we be better. I don't know that. I can't project that. So public response, that's the public I want to hear first.
So we'll keep the October 26th meeting, and we'll to brainstorm different ways of outreach, and then we'll figure out a schedule for 2024, and probably be the last Wednesday of the month. Wednesday seems to be, we don't have hearings, so we kind of revolve around that. So, but we'll get that calendar together for 2020, at least for 2024. So
2023.
yeah, thank you. Okay. Anyone else have any closing comments or ideas? We're at 3:02. Kept you in an hour.
You were done at 20 after. So I think the group just proved Aristotle's law, which is nature abhors a vacuum.
I try to be very concise, so.
Don't put that in.
So I guess we'll close for today, and we'll see you on October 26th.
Thank you, Tammy.